Hey everyone, E3 2018 has started. I'm Randy. This is Alessandro. The very first game we played is Anthem from Bioware. Now, I actually didn't get to play it. I just saw a behind closed doors presentation. You actually got to play it. And I guess the thing is, this is a game from Bioware, who is a developer that is known for its narrative-led games. But it kind of doesn't feel like a story-focused game right now, right? Like, because what you saw was action, right?
Yeah, this feels very much in the vein of like Destiny or The Division.
Yeah.
It's that sort of shared world online shooter where you can team up with like other players, like go on missions, like level up, gain loot, and I at first I thought it was a little off-putting because I'm used to that sort of like traditional BioWare experience where you create a character, you make choices, you go through like this sort of epic quest, and while that's still there, this is sort of more focused on like that sort of shooting and like action-oriented experience, and I actually thought that was a good thing for a change.
And to be clear, like the section you played, I think is the stuff they showed at the press conference at EA, which is
a more extended version of it.
Yeah. You're standing in. You start in your in your forward operating base. You get into your Colossus. Is that the name of the javelin?
Well, we played the Ranger.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, because
switched it up a bit.
Yeah. And then you go out, and a lot of it, that demo was basically traversal, right? Like moving around the world, and then eventually ending up at that big bug monster thing, right?
Yeah. The thing that was interesting to me was just sort of that how different it felt, I guess, from not only just for BioWare game, but just also like even from Destiny or The Division, where there's just a greater focus on like verticality.
Yeah.
Like you can quote me on this, but I can say that this is the best Iron Man game we'll ever get.
I know. Yeah, like some of that Ranger's moves when he has those like small missiles pop out from his armor look very Iron Man.
Yeah, this is totally Iron Man, and and what I felt most affected by this game was that the shooting, just the general action of it, just felt so punchy and like felt really sharp, and I think that was sort of years of just sort of experience on even like Mass Effect series where they were just sort of refining slowly refining that sort of the mechanics of it, and this to me just feels like the best that they've ever had in terms of like action-oriented gameplay.
So you feel like they built up those skills in third-person action over the last few Mass Effect games, and it feels like a proper action game.
It does, which is weird because this is BioWare, because like they sort of like they focus on what they're good at, which is storytelling, like traditional RPG gameplay, but now they're basically showing what they've got when it comes to action gameplay, which is really impressive.
So how did the Ranger actually feel like to play? Because as we mentioned, the Colossus was the one they showed off quite a lot in the gameplay reveal today. But how did the Ranger actually play?
Well, when you look at sort of the lineup of like all the javelins, they sort of follow those traditional like RPG like archetypes, like the DPS, like the tank, the glass cannon mage, and like the interceptor, which we didn't get to see at all, but which sort of feels similar to like a rogue. But the Ranger is very much that sort of all-around like DPS oriented class, and he has the skills we had were the sort of the legendary skill called the Frost Grenade, and also a concussive blast attack, which sort of pushes back enemies. And the interesting thing about what this game does is that it focuses on sort of using combo attacks with other javelins. So if you use a frost grenade on a group of enemies and freeze them in place, you can have the Colossus rain in like rockets and stuff, and it'll create extra damage, and you'll see like those like
bonus. Yeah. Now, you also mentioned verticality, and I guess that was one of my key like fears. Like before I saw a lot of Anthem gameplay, was that it looked kind of similar to to something like Destiny.
Yeah.
But it because they have such verticality inherent in the actual javelins, it seems like it's going to be very different. Like, did you actually use that a lot in your gameplay? Like, were you actually flying around, taking on enemies? How did that feel?
It felt great, and we use it a lot actually, and in a lot of ways it's sort of like sprinting. Like just how used to like how tight it is to like sort of the general locomotion of the gameplay, and we didn't get to see how far like high up you can fly, but you can actually travel around like through the air, like through significant distance, and it does have like sort of an overheat mechanic. But what we saw during the presentation, and also what I experienced in my play session, was that if you go through waterfalls, then you'll instantly recharge like your sort of fuel meter.
So it is gated by a meter. You can't just indefinitely float and just like zoom around your enemies. You will eventually have to get on the ground and start getting in with them.
Yeah.
Now, we talked a lot about the action, and I know that story wasn't really a focus of what they showed today, but BioWare did say that this is still a BioWare game, that there is still going to be a lot of narrative in this. But right now it seems kind of unclear, right, as to how that fits in. It seems like, from what I can gather anyway, like all of the actual story happens in your own personal instance of the world, like in your base. That's where story gets progressed. That's where you find out about stuff, and then the actual sort of open world itself is where where the action actually takes place. Is that the sense you got from that as well?
Definitely. Well, I even spoke with Mark Dura, after we got to play, and I got the sense that the story is much more of a nebulous concept within Anthem, because you do have your moments of where you tell your story within the FOB, which is like when all story cutscenes and like those moments are actually within first person. So those are like sort of those personal moments basically. But how that ties into the larger open world, with other players like making their own unique choices, is still a bit unclear. But I do like the sort of setting and sort of the vibe of it. So I'm really interested in seeing how they're able to sort of blend that together.
Yeah, and it seems they're really trying to shoot for the stars here, because I think in their presentation they mentioned that they've built this narrative so that it can be continually expanded upon, and I think they've already started sort of talking slightly about some of the plans they have post-release for this game. So it's a big undertaking, and
they're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, they're definitely in it for the long haul. Yeah. So overall impressions of Anthem, you like what you played today? Do you want to you're excited to find out more?
I loved it a lot more than I thought I would. Like, definitely, like, because I feel like the sort of concept of like the shared world online shooter is really common. Like, we've been playing Destiny for a few years now, and The Division, which is has shown considerable growth. So I'm interested in seeing just how expansive this one is, because I feel like the verticality of this game just really adds its own flavor to it, and it really does set itself apart from the other games that I've played.
Yeah, we gotta wait a little while for it though, because I think it's February 2019 is when they said it was actually
February
coming out.
22nd.
February 22nd, 2019. So that's it for Anthem at this year's E3. Check out GameSpot for more on that game and heaps others.